You're carrying something heavy, maybe a backpack, maybe a bag of groceries up 4 flights of stairs. It slows you down, just a little, you barely notice. But in the wild, that tiny slowdown is the difference between life and death. Because right now, somewhere on this planet, a pregnant animal is being hunted. Not randomly, not by accident, specifically. Most people assume predators just go for the weak, the old, the sick. That's the textbook answer. But that's not quite right. There's a hidden reason pregnant animals become targets, and it has almost nothing to do with weakness. It has to do with math. Cold, brutal, evolutionary math. Stay till the end, because the last part of this story isn't really about animals at all. It's about you. Let's start with the assumption everyone makes. Predators go for the easiest kill. Old, injured, slow. That's what we're taught. Survival of the fittest, right? The weak get picked off. But here's what's fascinating. Pregnancy doesn't just make an animal a little tired. It rebuilds her entire body. And scientists have actually measured exactly how much. In 2011, researchers studied pregnant bottlenose dolphins right before they gave birth. They filmed them swimming, they measured drag, they measured speed, and the numbers were staggering. A pregnant dolphin's body swells outward. Her frontal surface area increases by more than 50%. That means more water pushing against her with every stroke. Her top swimming speed drops by nearly half. Her average cruising speed drops by over 60%. Now, here's the part that should make your stomach drop. The researchers compared her new, slower speed to the attack speed of her natural predators. The predators were still fast enough to catch her every single time. She wasn't just a little behind, she was already caught biomechanically before the chase even began. So what killed her chances wasn't bad luck, it was physics. And dolphins aren't unique. This same pattern shows up again and again across nature, in animals that look nothing alike. Pregnant lizards run measurably slower than lizards that aren't carrying eggs or young. Pregnant bats change how they take off from their roosts, dropping lower and taking longer to gain lift, because a heavier body needs more room to climb. Across fish, birds, mammals, reptiles, the story repeats. Carrying new life adds weight in exactly the wrong places. It shifts the center of balance. It steals oxygen that would normally go to sprinting muscles. Nature doesn't ask permission before it does this. It just happens, quietly, invisibly, until the moment a predator shows up and the bill comes due. But slower speed is only half the story. Because if you were a predator and you had a choice between two targets that were equally slow, which one would you choose? The one that's just old and tired? Or the one that's carrying a second, smaller body inside her, packed with fat and protein her body has been storing for months? Pregnancy isn't just a physical burden, it's a walking calorie surplus. A pregnant animal represents more nutrition per kill than almost any other target on the landscape. For a predator running a constant energy budget, deciding whether every chase is worth the calories it costs, that math tips hard in one direction. This is where the story gets darker. In June of 1982, researchers in Canada's Northwest Territories came across something almost impossible to process. 34 newborn caribou calves, all killed within roughly 24 hours, clustered inside a space smaller than 2 square kilometers. Wolves hadn't even finished eating most of them. One wolf alone was documented killing 3 calves in a single outing, roughly 1 kill every 6 to 8 minutes. This wasn't hunger. Hunger doesn't explain leaving half the carcasses untouched. This was opportunity. Calving grounds concentrate the most vulnerable individuals of an entire population into one place at one time, all at once. And predators don't need to be told what that means. They already know. But here's what's even stranger. The danger doesn't start the moment the baby arrives. It starts long before that, in the mother's mind. The moment a predator is simply nearby. Scientists call it the landscape of fear. It's an invisible map that lays itself over every habitat a prey animal lives in, built entirely out of risk. Areas near a predator's territory feel dangerous, even if no attack ever happens there. And pregnant females respond to that invisible map differently than anyone else in the herd. In Yellowstone, researchers tracking elk found that lower-ranking females get pushed toward the risky edges of the group's range, the places where wolves are more likely to be. They don't choose this, they're forced into it by competition for the safer ground at the center. And in 2007, scientists published a study showing that elk living under constant wolf presence had measurably lower levels of the hormone that supports pregnancy, and produced fewer calves overall. The wolves didn't have to kill anything for this to happen. Just existing nearby was enough to rewrite the mother's biology. It gets stranger still. In a now famous 2011 field experiment, scientists studied wild song sparrows and made sure predators could never physically reach them. Speakers played predator sounds near their nests. Nothing more. No claws, no teeth, just sound. And the mothers who heard those sounds produced roughly 40% severely surviving offspring than mothers who didn't. Fear alone, with zero actual violence, was enough to reshape how many young a mother could successfully raise. Predators don't just kill prey, they shape entire populations just by being a possibility in the background. So picture it from the mother's side for a second. Imagine you're a pregnant elk on the edge of a herd. Your body is heavier than it's ever been. Your balance has shifted. Every sprint costs more oxygen than it used to. And somewhere out past the tree line, a predator you can't see is changing your hormones just by existing. You are, at this exact moment, biologically the most valuable target in the entire group, and physically the least equipped to escape being one. Now, compare that to something closer to home. Human pregnancy carries almost identical physical costs. Slower movement, shifted balance, a body reallocating resources toward growing new life instead of running from danger. For most of human history, our ancestors lived with real predators too. And here's the twist that separates us from every other species in this story. Humans didn't outrun this problem. We out-cooperated it. Anthropologists have long pointed to something called alloparenting, the idea that early human groups didn't leave pregnant and nursing mothers to fend for themselves the way most species do. Other group members, sometimes entire communities, shared the burden of protection and provisioning. It's one of the reasons some researchers believe human childhood became so long, and human social bonds became so strong. We didn't evolve to individually outrun the landscape of fear. We evolved to build a group large enough that the landscape of fear couldn't reach the most vulnerable member of it. Which brings us back to you and that heavy bag you were carrying at the start of this video. Every one of us moves through life carrying something. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's a burden nobody else can see. A stress, a responsibility, a version of yourself still forming. And in the wild, being slowed down by something you're carrying is often a death sentence. No exceptions, no mercy. The math doesn't care how hard you're trying. But somewhere along the way, our species found a loophole in that ancient rule. We learned that the moment you're most vulnerable is exactly when you need people around you the most. And we built entire societies on that single idea. The mice in Universe 25 didn't have a choice about who protected them. The animals on the calving grounds don't get to choose safety in numbers. But you do. Every time you check in on someone who's struggling, every time you carry a little of someone else's weight, you're doing the one thing that let our species escape a rule that still governs almost every other creature on Earth. The wild never forgave slowness. We built a world that could.